G'day and welcome back to another episode of Euro Mining News. Today we're talking ASX listed Prospech Limited, who have come out with some rare earth element drill hits, some results that are pretty good. However, I'm taking a little bit of a step back to my roots and having a look at a rare earth element mine over in Australia to see just how it stacks up against Lynas Rare Earths Mt Weld project. So that'll be interesting. And other than that, we've got a couple of financial reports, end of year financial reports from EMX Royalty and also from Amaroq Minerals. But the reason why I'm wanting to take a step back to my roots, as I'd say, to Australia, is because there's only a handful of operating mines basically in the world. So if we're wanting to compare results, we've got to choose a mine. And I thought, well, what better place than Australia? So straight into it. Prospech are a multi-commodity explorer. They've got projects across Finland and Slovakia. They've currently got a market cap of 11 mil, which is up from 9.7 mil when I talked about them 2 weeks ago, thanks to a 20% uptick in its share price off the back of this rare earths discovery, basically, at its Korsnas project. So today they announced a bunch of high-grade rare earth hits at Korsnas, running all the way up to 4.9% or 49,000 ppm total rare earth oxides, or TRIO. These results out of Prospech has come off the back of a resampling campaign of historic drill core that's been stored at the Geological Survey of Finland basically since the 1970s. Now, Korsnas was originally a lead mine, primarily with just a small amount of rare earth concentrate that was extracted just in its final years. It's been closed since 1972, following the decline of value of lead and also rare earth elements just being a mere fraction of what they are today with the technological enhancements that we've had in the last few decades. So basically, because it was previously a lead mine, they were only targeting lead. So Prospech noticed this in the old core, and that there were a lot of zones within the carbonatites, which are rocks that have a potential for rare earth element mineralization, and that they hadn't been sampled. So they began sending off a heap of drill core for assay. These assays are the ones I'm talking about today. Now, as I said, before I go launching into the announcement, I like to have a good basis for comparison when I see new results, to see what grades are actually good and what grades just look good. Now, to do this, I always look at an operating mine with that mines the same mineral to see what grades they have in their resource and reserve recently, and more importantly, what cutoff grades they use. Now, the reason for this is that it sets a baseline for what is considered economic in current prices. Now, as there are currently no rare earth mines operating in all of Europe, I thought, why not jump over to my homeland, Australia, and take a look at Lynas's Mt Weld rare earth mine in Western Australia. Now, as a disclaimer, Mt Weld is considered high grade, so we can't compare it apples for apples exactly. However, it's one of only a handful of operating mines, and I'm talking 6 in the entire world. So it's a good bench stick to be able to measure against. So these guys, Lynas at Mt Weld, they've got a lower cutoff grade of 2.5% total rare earth oxides, or 25,000 ppm. So basically, everything below 25,000 ppm is considered waste. So we'll keep that number in our minds, 25,000 ppm, when we look at Prospech's announcement shortly. And Mt Weld has an average grade of its resource of 5%, or 50,000 ppm, total rare earth oxide, and it has an NdPr ratio, so heavy rare earth ratio, of 25%. And remembering again that NdPr is where the vast majority of value comes from, as these two elements, neodymium and praseodymium, are used in permanent magnets in a range of different uses. So that can be from wind turbines to electric vehicle motors, all the way through to military strategic weapons like submarines, missiles, lasers, basically all of the really important stuff when it comes to warfare. So these heavy rare earths take a premium over the light rare earths. Also, as a side note, dipping my toes into geopolitical issues here, but I'll be out again shortly. China currently mines 63% of all rare earths globally. They process 85% of all rare earths globally, but most important, they control 92% of all rare earth magnet production. So this is where the heavy rare earths come into play, and these go into everything, from wind turbines to cars to weaponry. Now, to get an unbiased look, I understand I am Australian, so to get an unbiased look, I also took a look over at the US, at their Mountain Pass rare earth element mine. And their total rare earth element grades sat at a whopping 8%, or 80,000 ppm. However, they've got a pretty low rare earth element ratio, sitting at just 1.4%. But again, importantly, the most important part to take out of this is their cutoff grade is sitting at just over 3%, or 30,000 ppm. So we've got 25,000 ppm cutoff grade for Mt Weld. We've got just over 30,000 ppm cutoff grade for Mountain Pass. We have no idea what the cutoff grades are in China because they don't release much to the market. However, we'll use these two as a benchmark as we look at the Korsnas project, which Prospech owns today. So we'll jump into it. Here we can see I received further assays from 1,020 samples, which have been collected across 49 drill holes. Now, I've got 24 meters running at 17,000 ppm. Remembering those cutoff grades that we spoke about before, 25,000 and 30,000. So it sounds big, but might not cut the mustard. However, it has got a 7.3 meters at 49,000 internal high grade interval. So this is sitting in the economic zone. The cutoff grade for Lynas was 25,000. This is sitting at almost 50,000. So this is ore. And more importantly is it's got a 15,000 ppm NdPr oxide. So that's basically more than 30% heavy rare earth ratio, which is even better than what Lynas has got. So as far as project economics, hits like this are going to make them money for sure. I've got another one, 4.6 meters at 45,000, but these ones here at 8,000, 11,000, they're good for an early stage project, but they're not going to make a mine, basically, is where I'm going with this. So this mineralization stretches across 1.5 kilometers, and this is obviously using old drill core that was just targeting lead. So it's not targeted rare earth element mineralization core. So it's good. It is good. And considering that this is free core because the old timers drilled it back in the 1970s and gave it to the Geological Survey of Finland, they can basically just go into the Geological Survey of Finland, say, can I have a look at the core? If it's whole core, they cut it in half, send half of it off to the lab. If it's already been half cored and it's been sampled, then they can cut it further into a quarter and send that off to the lab. So it is good for Prospech for sure. So yeah, like I said, 1,020 samples were sent off. It was from the Geological Survey of Finland. Yeah, and like I said, if there was no visible ore, lead ore in the drill core previously, it generally wasn't sampled. So they've got a lot of core here which they can send for sample that wasn't sampled previously because it's not linked to the lead. Now this is just the best hits. Now I just want to scroll straight down. This is where Korsnas sits, by the way, so it's in a very good location as far as spitting distance from Helsinki. It's got trucking routes and everything that it needs as far as getting a mine off the ground. It was an old mine, so it's even got infrastructure. Now, here are our hits that they deem good. So basically what they've said is rare earth element intersections with a total rare earth oxide above 3,000 ppm has been highlighted and put into this graph, or with its total rare earth element oxide times thickness above 6,000. So if it's a 3,000 ppm hit, but it's 2 meters long, you go 3,000 times 2, it's above 6,000 ppm when you combine it with the thickness. So if we jump straight into here, remembering Mt Weld has a 25,000 ppm cutoff before it's called waste, and over in the US, Mountain Pass had a 30,000 ppm cutoff. So as much as these grades are good, keep that in mind. So 14,000 narrow, 12,000 narrow, 27,000, all right, that's economic, but it's narrow. Here we got 27,000, 2.2, 36,000 at 2, 26,000 at 1. This is where we start to get into the juice here, which is basically 49,000 ppm. However, it's just over 1 meter in a larger interval here. 45,000 again over 4.6. But all of these that are sitting around 10,000, yes, they're good as far as exploration potential, but they're not going to cut it in a mining sense. Now, if we jump into, they've also provided a bunch of cross sections, which I love to see. They're saying that the ore body is potentially sitting at a 45-degree angle. So these drill hits that are vertical holes aren't going to be true width. They're basically going to over exaggerate how much mineralization is there. Now, unfortunately, this vertical one here is the one that had 49,000 ppm and plus with 30% heavy rare earths. So we got to cut that one back a little bit when we talk about true width and drill this thing at 45 degrees so it intersects it perpendicular. You can see the old mine stopes were also at 45 degrees, so they're more or less saying that the rare earth element mineralization is following what the lead mineralization was doing back when it was mined, because they would stope it at the exact angle of the ore body. Now, I wanted to take a little dip into the geopolitical situation of rare earths. These rare earths are listed and included on the critical raw minerals for Europe. However, like I said, there's no mines active in Europe today. China dominates both the mining and the processing, while Europe is largely dependent on rare earth elements for manufacturing the permanent magnets, which go into all of these necessary things: wind turbines, electric vehicles, so on. So the EU today is virtually import dependent. when it comes to these permanent magnets. And as of 2035, sale of petrol and diesel vehicles is going to be completely prohibited. And bearing in mind that one of these EVs has about 6 times the amount of minerals in it as a conventional car does, or vehicle in general. So these powerful permanent magnets used in electric vehicles, they contain a lot of heavy rare earths. So not just rare earths, but heavy rare earths, NdPr, neodymium and praseodymium. These can have anywhere from 0.5 kilograms up to several kilograms in every vehicle, depending on the size of the motor and the permanent magnet, of course. So if they can get this thing off the ground, it's got heavy rare earth element grades of between 20 and 30% of its total rare earth oxides, and it can keep those total rare earth oxide numbers kind of above 25,000, then this thing could well turn into a mine, basically. So it's good news, and that is also why the share price has taken an uptick recently. If we have a look here, you can see just in the last 5 days it's gone up by 20%. So it is having a good run. Now onto other news. We've got Amaroq. So these guys own a whole bunch of land in Greenland, and they have brought out their end of year financial results. Now these guys are TSX listed, and like I said, they own a lot of land in Greenland. Now today, Tuesday, they announced a notable turnaround in their financial performance for the latest year. Now, this was marked by a shift back to net profit, despite a bunch of weather-related setbacks affecting operations. Now, they've said it's net profits, but there's a few things that are going into this that are a bit suspicious. So this $13.4 million profit is compared to its $17.5 million net loss, which was recorded in the previous year. So it's important to note that exploration and evaluation expenses notably decreased by 48%. So if you're not doing the exploration as an exploration company, you're not getting the results back and you're not furthering your business. So I don't see a drop in exploration as being a good thing in this regard, but it's dropped back to 6.6 million. However, site development costs have increased by 1.8 million from zero in the preceding year. Now, the most alarming thing I've seen here is the cash on hand. So they've had a decrease in cash on hand to 21 million in just 3 months. So they had 53 million as of September 30, which has dropped down to 21 million in December 31. So that's generally a concerning thing for me. So when they're saying that they've gone back to positive, like they're going well again, and they've done a turnaround, it's always a bit dodgy when you're talking that their cash on the hand has gone and they've dropped back on exploration expenses. But regardless of that, Amaroq has emphasised that it's still well funded and it's got a commitment to advancing the development of its projects in 2024. Now, they also spoke about that they're wanting to accelerate mining activities and associated work. The company's highlighted a bunch of achievements from 2023, including successful drilling programs and discovery of a new vein, the 75 vein, which has demonstrated potential for resource growth, and they plan to further delineate this vein and advance construction of the process plant, with engineering expected to conclude in the second quarter. The CEO has basically expressed his optimism about this and said even though they've had a bunch of bad weather conditions throughout the year, they've managed to stay on track. And he's talking about bringing this Nanulac into production, expanding its exploration efforts across its precious and strategic metals portfolio. So despite these positive developments, positive in their eyes, the shares of Amaroq have actually gone down 1.6% on the London Exchange. In other news, we've also had TSX Frankfurt and New York listed EMX Royalty Group, who owns a large tenement portfolio throughout Scandinavia and the rest of the world, have posted their results from Q4 2023. Now, the way these guys make their money is they peg large areas of ground where they think it's going to be prospective, like basically old mining areas and things like that, and then they try to sell them off. So they're not interested in becoming a miner. They're interested in owning the good property, selling it off, getting a royalty, and maybe a bit of an interest in the company that is going to develop it, some shares in them, and that's how they make their money. But basically, these guys had a successful year, especially in growing its net smelter return royalties, mainly from its gold assets. Adjusted revenue went up by 46%, and adjusted royalty revenue went up by a massive 120%. So looking ahead to 2024, the company expects its portfolio to keep expanding, and sales for the year are projected to be between 11,000 and 14,000 gold equivalent ounces. So that's all for today. We dipped our toes into rare earth elements. We got back to Australia for a little bit and even over to the US. So it was exciting. Thanks for listening in. As a disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. I'm just a geologist and I'm expressing my personal opinions about what I think about these companies, and you should not take any of it as advice. So thanks for listening in today, and we'll see you again shortly.